Hello, and welcome back to Lacrim Noir. Before we begin, feel free to leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I always enjoy reading them. If you're drawn to dark haunting stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, settle in, clear your mind, let the outside world slip away, and let's begin. Story 1. The SS Freedom was cutting across the Pacific on a long run from Perth, Australia to Anchorage, Alaska. It was the kind of ship people bragged about riding, the kind that showed up in travel magazines and postcards. Luxury liner, old school style. It had 12 decks in total, 9 above the waterline and 3 below. The top 9 were built for passengers. Staterooms, lounges, dining rooms, wide hallways lined with art, and enough quiet corners for people to pretend they were alone, even with thousands of others on board. The 3 below the waterline were for crew, storage, and the parts of the ship most passengers never saw unless they got lost. The Freedom was huge, almost 1,000 feet long, built in the early 1950s when shipbuilders still believed a liner should look grand and move like it owned the ocean. It had 2 oval funnels used for ventilation around the engines. They were painted red with a white band near the top and a dark navy band at the very top. The hull below the waterline was a dull red like most ships, but above that it was painted a deep navy so dark it nearly looked black. That color rose up about 4 decks. Then a thin blue stripe ran along the length, and above it the upper decks were painted white. Even the decks had that expensive look, steel beneath, covered in light brown teak planking that made it feel warm underfoot, despite all the metal. From the outside, the ship had a sharp, triangular bow and a smooth, rounded stern. It wasn't just for style. The design helped it move fast, up to 32 knots when the sea allowed it. On the bow deck stood 2 white metal masts, and near the stern was a 3rd mast, also white. At the back of the ship, there were 3 open-air decks where passengers could walk, sit, and watch the wake stretch out behind them. A large United States flag hung from the stern, snapping in the wind like it was proud to be there. One of the ship's biggest attractions was an indoor swimming pool built into a lower section. It was heated, 6 feet deep, and always busy. People who didn't like the outdoor wind still went there to float and pretend they were in a resort instead of the middle of the Pacific. The Freedom wasn't brand new, but it was well known. It had made plenty of long runs and had a reputation for being dependable. This trip was supposed to take about 15 days and included 1 stop in Honolulu for fuel and supplies. Nearly all of the 695 passenger staterooms were booked. On board were 1,934 passengers and 1,047 crew, enough people to make the ship feel like a moving city. 2 days into the voyage, the ship sent out a message by radio along with a standard transmission. It was dated September 21st, 1961. The report was simple and professional. Rough weather ahead, arrival in Honolulu expected to be 1 to 2 days late. The storm hit hard and fast. Huge waves slammed into the hull, making the ship pitch and roll. The Freedom kept moving, but the captain slowed her down to a safer speed. Every so often a wave would crash over the bow deck and rush across before draining away, leaving the wood slick and shining. Inside, the motion made even confident passengers walk with their hands out, bracing themselves against the walls. The hallways became obstacle courses. For 2 days, the storm didn't let up. People stumbled. In a few lounges, furniture slid and toppled when the ship rocked too hard. Staff did what they could, but there's only so much you can do when the ocean decides to remind everyone who's in charge. During one of those nights, a passenger named Mary White started telling anyone who would listen that something was wrong beyond the storm. She was staying alone, and she said she heard a whisper in her cabin, soft and faint, like someone speaking close to her ear. She checked the bathroom, the closet, the small sitting area. No one. She told herself it was the wind or the ship settling. Then the cabin lights turned on by themselves. Not once, more than once. She said it happened at random, even when she was nowhere near the switch. After that, she noticed shadows that didn't behave right. Shapes moved along the wall in ways that didn't match the swinging lamp or the movement of the ship. One time, the overhead lights flickered and the white glow shifted into something with a green tint. Just for a moment. She said she caught a glimpse of a pale white figure out of the corner of her eye, like someone standing at the foot of the bed. When she turned to look, it was gone. By the time the storm finally calmed and the ship pushed back up to full speed to make up time, Mary had stopped trying to laugh it off. She kept her lights on. She slept little. She started talking to other passengers and discovered she wasn't the only one who had felt strange things during the storm. On October 1st, 1961, the SS Freedom reached Honolulu. The sky over the port looked clean and bright, like the storm had never existed. Most passengers were excited to stretch their legs and enjoy 2 days in Hawaii. But 14 passengers did the opposite. They disembarked and didn't come back. Mary was one of them. Those 14 people gathered their luggage and left quickly, whispering to each other while they waited on the pier. They talked about voices in their cabins, about lights switching on and off without anyone touching them. Several mentioned the same detail. Sometimes the lights flickered green. Some of them described shadows in empty corners, shadows that didn't match anything in the room. They used words like cursed and haunted, the kind of words people use when they're scared and need a label. Most of the remaining passengers didn't believe them. Some joked that the storm had shaken their nerves loose. Others said they were probably drunk or dreaming. And to be fair, the Freedom was still packed with people who hadn't experienced anything at all. The ship was still running, still clean, still comfortable. The ship stayed docked for 2 extra days. The crew did inspections, paying special attention to electrical systems and anything that might explain the strange claims. They found nothing. No wiring faults, no power surges, no evidence of anyone tampering with switches or bulbs. Everything checked out. On October 3rd, 1961, the Freedom lifted anchor and left Honolulu behind, pointed toward Alaska. For a while, the rest of the trip felt normal again. Passengers relaxed, they swam in the pool, they ate in the dining rooms where the menu changed daily, and the waiters moved like dancers. People played cards, listened to music, flirted, argued, and wrote postcards. The ocean looked calm, and the ship moved with the steady confidence it was known for. Then, on October 5th, 1961, the SS Freedom sent another transmission at 1837. It said the engines were at half ahead because of very dense fog and poor visibility, but the ship was holding steady. The fog was strange because it seemed to appear all at once. The Freedom had been cruising at speed, cutting cleanly through open water, and then suddenly the world outside turned into gray soup. From the decks, you could barely see the railings a short distance away. The horizon vanished. The sea and sky blended into one blank wall. That's when several passengers said they saw a faint green light ahead, slightly off the port side. At first, it looked like a reflection or a trick of the fog, but it stayed there. It didn't flicker the way a distant star might. It held steady, as if something was shining from inside the mist. Not long after, the radio operator picked up a distress call in Morse code. It came through as the classic pattern, ASOS, then static, then broken and difficult to make out. More Morse came through. Help, S, it, L, N, T, R, crew all dead. Then static again. Then silence. People in the radio room listened over and over, trying to confirm what they'd heard. The fragments sounded like a ship's name, something like Italian Star, though the signal was damaged enough that nobody could swear to it. The Freedom kept pushing forward at careful speed. The green light grew brighter as minutes dragged into an hour. The captain didn't like the idea of chasing ghost lights in a fog bank, but he also couldn't ignore a possible distress call. Ships helped ships. That was the rule. That was the sea. About 1 hour and 40 minutes after the first call, another message came through. This time it wasn't Morse. It was two words in a clear, flat transmission that sounded like it came from a dying radio set. I die, not I am dying, not we are sinking. Just those two words, like someone had already accepted the ending. By then, the green light was close enough that the ship's spotlight began to pick up an outline in the fog. An older ocean liner appeared, looming out of the gray like the fog was giving birth to it. When the beam swept across it, details snapped into view. The other ship looked like it had sailed out of another decade. It had three cylindrical funnels, rusted and streaked, painted yellow with black tops. Its hull was black across the lower decks and white above, but the paint was ruined. Orange rust covered huge sections like a disease. Some portholes were so dirty they looked sealed shut, while others were strangely clear, glowing faintly green from inside. Several windows were shattered. On the broken glass, dark red stains ran down the metal outside, like something had bled and never been washed away. The lifeboats were still there, but some were hanging wrong. A few dangled by a single rope, swinging slightly as if the ship still breathed. The decks looked rotted. Metal railings were eaten away. And still, in places the ship looked untouched, like time had skipped over certain areas. The captain wanted to leave. Every instinct in him screamed that this was the kind of situation that turned into a report no one wanted to write. But he also had a ship full of passengers and crew watching. He couldn't pretend he hadn't seen it. After arguing with his officers, he agreed to let a small group investigate, but only because of who volunteered. Richard Masterson, a retired U.S. Navy man, offered to lead. Jonathan Fitzgerald, a historian with a reputation for being sharp and practical, insisted on coming. Henry Stutensberg, a professional photographer, brought his camera gear. Frederick and Anthony, salvage experts, said they could identify what mattered and what didn't. The rest of the group were experienced safety and exploration types, people who'd been in caves, on wrecks, and in places where panic kills faster than the environment. At 2107, the Freedom transmitted an update. They had found a ship that looked like it was from the 1920s, rusted and decaying, with what looked like blood down some windows, and a faint whispering sound coming from it. Some passengers and crew were going to investigate. More information would follow. The explorers boarded using a portable gangway from the Freedom. They moved as a tight group, not spreading out, not acting like movie heroes. The first thing Richard noticed when his boots hit the other deck was a dark puddle. Even in the weak light, it looked thick. "Looks like blood," he radioed back, keeping his voice controlled like he was reporting a hazard during a drill. The deck beneath their feet felt wrong. It wasn't just old. It felt neglected in a way that suggested violence, like the ship had been abandoned in a hurry and no one ever came back to make sense of what happened. They went down a set of corroded metal stairs that creaked with every step. One floor below, on the promenade deck chairs sat in rows. Their cushions were green with mold and patches of moss. The air smelled wet, metallic, and stale, like an old basement sealed for years. Richard pushed open a rusted metal door and led them into an interior hallway. The carpet was tan yellow, decaying in places, soft enough to muffle their steps. White walls ran along both sides, marked with stains and scratches. Doors led to passenger cabins, and side hallways branched off like veins. Even with their footsteps muffled, they heard other steps. Not echoes, not the ship shifting, footsteps that didn't match their rhythm, moving somewhere nearby in the corridors they couldn't see. Jonathan, the historian, stopped and stared down one corridor. He swore he saw a pearly white figure at the far end, just standing there. When he blinked and looked again, it was gone. A faint scream drifted through the ship, so soft it almost sounded like the wind squeezing through cracked seams. Then overhead lights flickered on, bathing the hallway in a green-tinted glow that made everyone's skin look sick. They kept moving. No one wanted to run, because running creates separation, and separation gets people killed. Jonathan opened a cabin door, checking for survivors, expecting nothing more than empty rooms and mold. Inside, on the floor, was a dead man. Not a skeleton, not a pile of old bones. A body, eyes wide open, face frozen in terror like he'd seen something that broke his brain before it stopped his heart. The skin looked wrong, pale and stiff. The smell in the room was faint but real. For a moment, no one moved. Even Richard looked unsure, not because he couldn't handle death, but because it didn't fit. A ship missing for decades doesn't hold a body that looks like it hasn't been dead for decades. Richard forced himself to act. He checked the man's suitcase and found clothes, a passport, and a ticket. The ticket was the part that made everyone's stomach tighten. The SS Italian Star, first class. That name hit them like a wave. The Italian Star was a ship that had vanished nearly 40 years earlier. No wreckage had been officially found. No clear explanation, just rumors and theories and old reports people stopped believing after enough time passed. The passport identified the man as Giuseppe Ferraro. Richard pocketed the ticket and the ID. He didn't announce it like a trophy. He did it like evidence, because something in him knew they might need proof later. The group moved on, 10 people still together, flashlights cutting through greenish light and shadow. A little later, they heard a child's voice, faint and distant, screaming as if from another room, another time. Then the green overhead lights died all at once. The ship went dark. Everyone switched on their flashlights, beams shaking slightly as fear finally started to show. In the next hallway, they found blood on the wall and the corpse of a young girl lying at an unnatural angle. Her skin was pale white. Her eyes stared with an empty expression that didn't match a natural death. As they stood there trying to breathe, a door slammed somewhere down the corridor, loud enough to make several of them flinch. They went down another set of stairs with rotting wooden handrails and entered a decaying dining room. What they saw there made the earlier bodies feel like a warning they hadn't understood. Corpses were slumped in chairs at tables, as if dinner had been interrupted and no one ever stood up again. Some stared upward, eyes wide and fearful. Plates of food sat in front of them, now rotted and collapsed. Some half-eaten, some untouched. The dining hall still had details that suggested it had once been beautiful. Green tablecloths, a floor of blue and yellow patterned tile, red wooden chairs, and at one end a golden mirror. Henry took pictures while the others scanned the room. Richard approached the mirror, uneasy without knowing why. When he looked into it, his throat tightened. The mirror didn't reflect the dining room. It showed a different room entirely, lit differently, arranged differently. Like a separate place was layered over their reality. The longer Richard looked, the more it felt like the mirror was a window, not a reflection. They backed away and left the dining hall, passing a rotted door that had been torn off its hinges as if someone had tried to rip it open in panic. They moved down a corridor with a brown floor and reddish-gray walls. Water dripped somewhere, slow and steady, even though there shouldn't have been running water here. A collapsed doorway blocked one path, so they turned and opened a steel door into a maintenance passage. Their footsteps echoed now, sharp on the metal flooring. And with the echo came something else, the sound of boots. Heavy steps, confident steps, following their rhythm but not matching it. None of them were wearing boots. At the end of the passage, a set of metal maintenance stairs dropped down 2 or 3 decks. The bottom wasn't visible. Mist filled the lower space like a blanket, thick enough that their flashlights couldn't cut through it. On the first landing, there was a door. Anthony tried it. Locked. He shined his flashlight through a small window and saw darkness and what looked like a shadow further down a hallway, a shape that didn't move like smoke or mist. Everyone took turns pulling and pushing. It wouldn't open. Finally, they went down again. At the bottom, they found shipping crates. Labels were painted on them: salvage, do not open, passenger cargo, and tags with names listing who the belongings were supposed to belong to. Many crates were damaged, lids missing. They looked through the salvage crates and found old life rings with letters scratched into them, broken fragments of wood and metal, a compass, torn cloth, and a cargo manifest. Frederick muttered that these had been salvaged from another ship, not the Italian Star. That detail didn't make sense, but it sat in their minds like a splinter. They searched the passenger cargo. Aged suitcases, a porcelain baby doll with a cracked face, wristwatches lined up in a way that felt too neat, all stopped at the same time. 11:06. Pocket watches, lockets. Personal objects that made it clear real people had boarded this ship, expecting to arrive somewhere, never imagining their belongings would sit in a crate in the dark. Without telling anyone, Anthony slipped a gold locket into his pocket. He also pocketed the compass. Frederick quietly took one of the silver wristwatches. It was a small theft, but it changed something in the air, as if the ship noticed. As they headed back up, Richard saw movement below in the mist. He snapped his flashlight beam down, expecting a person. There was nothing but broken crates and emptiness. When they reached the first landing, the locked door they couldn't open earlier was now standing wide open. No one spoke. They didn't need to. They went through because going back the way they came suddenly felt worse than going forward. In the hallway beyond, they found a door partly open. Inside were 15 bunk beds. 13 were made neat, untouched. 2 had human-shaped bumps under the blankets, as if someone were sleeping. Richard stepped closer and pulled back the blanket on one bed. A rotted corpse lay beneath it, eyes missing, sockets empty. A long knife was stabbed into the chest, buried to the handle. The body looked like it had been placed there, arranged, like the ship was keeping it. They left fast, not running, but moving with urgency. Further down the corridor, another door stood open. Richard looked back the way they had come, and the door behind them was now closed. Pale blue light seeped through the cracks. Jonathan pointed out that they had left it open. They all knew he was right. That meant something had closed it after they passed through. They chose the new route, up a stairway leading to another open door. Beyond it was a hallway with tan wallpaper and green carpet covered in mold. At the end was a metal door with no rust at all, shiny in a way that looked impossible on this ship. They opened it and found a room where metal bed cots were piled and shoved into corners. Another identical metal door stood on the far side. Jonathan opened it and found a medical space, an old bed, a burned-out medical light, and a hallway lined with rooms made of glass doors and walls like a shipboard hospital or quarantine area. They searched quickly and retreated again. Climbing another flight of stairs, at the top, a set of wooden doors stood closed, covered in moss. Jonathan pushed them open. A ballroom waited on the other side, lavish and perfect, untouched by rust or rot. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling. The wooden floor was fine and polished beneath a layer of dust. At the back was a platform for performers with torn red curtains. It looked like the kind of room where people once danced in expensive clothes while the ocean rolled outside, never thinking the party could end. Henry raised his camera to take a picture. The moment the shutter clicked, a whisper slipped through the air, clear enough that everyone heard it. Henry Studensberg. It wasn't shouted. It was spoken close, intimate, like someone leaning to his ear. The hair on their necks lifted. Henry froze, camera still in his hands. Then shapes appeared on the ballroom floor, pearly white phantoms, faint but visible, forming couples as if they'd been waiting for music. The music started, scratchy and faded, like an old record playing somewhere behind a wall. The figures began to dance, moving smoothly, their faces blurred, their bodies too light, like mist forced into human form. One by one, some of the dancing ghosts suddenly collapsed, as if fainting. They hit the floor without sound and then vanished. The remaining dancers kept moving as if they didn't notice, until the chandelier dropped without warning. It crashed down and shattered into bright pieces, spraying glass across the floor. Black smoke poured into the ballroom thick and fast, swallowing the dancers and the light. The music warped and slowed like a tape being eaten. That's when the group understood something important. The ship wasn't empty. Whatever remained here was still alive in its own way, trapped in a loop, cursed to replay the end over and over. A high-pitched scream ripped through the corridors, full of pain. The group turned to run back the way they'd come, but the stairway at the end of the hallway had partially collapsed. Their only choice was another corridor. Their flashlights swept over 6 corpses lying on the carpet, each with bullet wounds. They didn't stop to count. They didn't stop to think. They found a stairwell and ran upward. The stairs led back into the dining room. But the dining room had changed. The bodies they'd seen earlier were now pale white, like wax. The tablecloths, the floor, the clothes on the dead, everything was stained scarlet as if the room had been drenched. Wounds were visible on the corpses now. Blood-covered knives lay on the floor, and among them was a .45 caliber revolver. Faint blue figures appeared, transparent and flickering, and the group realized they were watching a replay. The phantom diners sat and ate, moving silently. Then, pale knives fell from above, dropping like rain from the ceiling. Gunshots echoed from nowhere, loud and sharp, and the scene flickered like a damaged film. The group ran again down a corridor with red carpet and gray molding, hearing panicked voices that didn't belong to any living person. They found the grand staircase. As they climbed, they saw a body hanging from the banister, a rope tied around its neck. The dead face turned slightly, and a whisper slipped out, dry and certain. "You will never leave." Then the body dropped. It fell 2 floors and hit the wood with a crunch that made everyone flinch. A soft, scream-like whisper came from it after impact, as if even the corpse could still suffer. They bolted down another hallway, this one lined with first-class cabin doors, dark green carpet, beige walls, white door frames. Everything looked like a normal luxury ship, except it was soaked in fear. Up more stairs, they reached a white metal door marked crew only. Anthony shoved it open. Beyond was the bridge. The bridge was intact, but decaying like a room left too long in damp air. Square windows at the front were lightly cracked but looked strangely clean, almost freshly wiped. The wooden wheel was warped and splintered, but still mostly whole. The brass engine order telegraph was in perfect condition, shiny and untouched. The floor was mahogany, and oddly, there was no blood here. No dead officers. It felt staged, like the ship wanted the bridge to be usable. Henry took another photograph. A whirring sound started in Anthony's pocket. He pulled out the compass he'd stolen from the cargo crates. The needle was spinning wildly, whipping around in circles as if it couldn't decide where north was, as if the very concept of direction didn't work here. Then the floor cracked. It split under Anthony and Frederick, opening into a square hole like an elevator shaft. They dropped into darkness, their screams echoing down into what looked like a bottomless abyss. The remaining 8 didn't waste time trying to help. The hole was too wide, the darkness too deep, the ship too unstable. They ran. They found an exit that led from the bridge to the deck. They expected to see the SS Freedom nearby, lights on, crew waiting, their own ship like a safe island in the fog. Instead, The Freedom's deck looked empty. No crew at the rails. No one shouting. No movement. The 8 men sprinted to the gangway and crossed back to their ship. As soon as their feet hit the Freedom's deck, reality should have snapped back into place. It didn't. The air felt wrong here, too, like the fog had carried something across with them. They rushed to the lounge where the captain and officers had been waiting. The lounge was empty. No captain, no officers, no passengers, no staff. Chairs sat in place like a room set up for a meeting that never happened. Panic finally broke through their training. They ran, shouting names, searching hallways, opening doors, finding nothing but silence. They made a decision fast. Jonathan and Richard headed for the bridge to get the Freedom moving. If the Italian Star was doing this, if the fog was a trap, then distance might be the only defense. Richard took control with the calm of a man who had handled worse under pressure. Jonathan helped, hand shaking but mind focused. They pushed the ship to flank speed. As the SS Freedom surged forward, the outline of the Italian Star faded into the fog and vanished like a thought you can't hold on to. For a brief moment, the air felt lighter, like they'd escaped. Then they went back to searching the ship for the missing. They checked crew cabins, storage rooms, service hallways. Empty. They moved deck by deck. Empty. The Freedom, which had carried nearly 3,000 people, now felt like a hollow steel shell moving through the ocean on its own. They finally found something on sea deck in the smoking room. The captain lay motionless on the floor. His white uniform was stained red. A knife lay nearby as if it had been dropped after the job was done. No sign of a fight. No sign of who did it. Richard ran to the radio room and sent a distress signal with their coordinates. His hands were steady on the controls, but his face looked gray. Then the ship lurched and stopped moving forward as if something had grabbed it from beneath. A few minutes later, an explosion tore through the hull under the waterline. A massive hole opened on the starboard side. Water rushed in with the sound of a waterfall trapped inside metal. The Freedom began to list hard to starboard, the tilt increasing as more compartments flooded. You could feel the ship trying to correct itself and failing. Richard and the others ran for the lifeboats. Launching them wasn't smooth. The first attempt failed when a rope jammed in the davit. The second time, the boat got stuck against the side because the ship was leaning so badly. They forced it free and finally got lifeboat number 9 into the water. They took the oars and rowed hard, putting as much distance between themselves and the Freedom as they could. Jonathan looked back and watched the disaster unfold. The stern deck was already taking water. The bow began to rise as the stern sank deeper, the ship turning into a slow, terrifying lever. After about 30 minutes, the Freedom lay partly on its side. Then the front funnel exploded. A deep sound rolled across the fog like thunder. The ship fully capsized. The decks turned upside down. The bow stuck up out of the water like a broken monument. And then came the final explosion. It was so loud it seemed to hit the lifeboat physically, a shockwave that made them flinch and nearly lose their oars. The SS Freedom split violently. Debris blasted outward. Metal fragments, wood, pieces of railing, things that had been part of a luxury liner only hours earlier. Then the ship slid down into the black water and vanished into the abyss. By the time the water calmed, the other ship was gone too. No Italian Star, no outline, no green light, nothing but empty ocean and a thinning fog. Hours passed. Henry fired a flare into the sky. Red light bloomed above them and faded. No one came. They drifted and waited, exhausted, cold, and half convinced they'd been left in some forgotten pocket of the sea. Later, near midday with the fog gone and the sun high, Richard saw a ship on the horizon. It was smaller than the Freedom, painted white, with a red hull below the waterline. As it approached, they saw a red cross on the side and a green stripe. It was a hospital ship. Henry shot a second flare. The hospital ship changed course toward them. When they were hauled aboard, the crew told them it was a Coast Guard hospital vessel out of Alaska. They had partially heard the distress call and saw the flares. The 8 survivors tried to explain what happened. At first, the hospital crew didn't believe them. The story sounded like shock and trauma turning into nonsense. A ghost ship, green lights, a luxury liner vanishing without a trace. It was easier to assume the survivors were mentally breaking down. That changed when the photographs were developed back in Alaska. The images showed things that should not have been there, details that matched their story too closely. Shapes in the ballroom, figures in places that should have been empty. Enough proof to make even the most skeptical people quiet. After that, multiple expeditions went out to search for the SS Freedom and the Italian Star. They didn't find debris. They didn't find a life ring. They didn't find oil slicks or floating wreckage. It was like the ocean had swallowed both ships and erased the evidence. Years later, in 1973, a cargo vessel reported a strange transmission filled with static. Buried in the noise, a voice said, "We are beneath you." It was dismissed as radio interference and miscommunication, the kind of thing sailors hear in bad conditions. It was ignored, filed away, and forgotten by everyone except the ones who remembered the fog. Then, decades after 1961, the messages started appearing again in ways that were harder to ignore. On August 13, 2000, at 2:57, the Coast Guard station on Kodiak Island received a message. SOS, SS Freedom, thick fog. We are sinking fire in the engine room. The official cause was listed as a malfunctioning radio receiver. That explanation made it easier to sleep at night. But the radio operator who heard it said that right after the message, the line went silent. Then, a few seconds later, a scream came from the floor below the radio room, and the power flickered off. On May 9, 2014, a letter arrived for the Masterson family. No return address, just a warning written in blunt words. Do not sail the North Pacific. WE are still here. Similar letters were sent to Jonathan Fitzgerald's granddaughter and Henry Stutensberg's grandson. But one letter was different. One was addressed to Jonathan himself, even though he was long gone. It said, "We await your return." Then on October 26, 2019, at 21:06, a distress call came from a small fishing vessel named Ocean Whisper. "There are 2 faint lines out in the distance," the caller said. His voice sounded strained, like he was trying not to panic. Then there was a scream, loud and sudden. Then another voice, lower, threaded with whispering in the background, said, "We are still waiting." After that, the Ocean Whisper disappeared from radar. Its radio went silent. The ship was declared missing. All 17 crew were presumed dead. No wreckage was found. No bodies. Just an empty stretch of water where fog sometimes rolls in too fast, and where sailors sometimes swear they see a faint green light off the port bow, steady and patient, like something out there has all the time in the world. Story 2. Well, look who finally decided to show up. What was it this time? An accident on the interstate? Big fire? Right? You could feel the heat through the glass even with the windows up. People always have stories when they arrive late. And I can promise you, it wasn't your predecessor no matter what you may have heard. Rumors spread fast around here. Faster than facts. Let that be your first lesson in the fulfillment business. If you're not early, you're already late. Sorry, give me 1 second. Express orders are in. Everybody move, hurry up and get going. I'm not repeating myself. Yeah, I know how that sounded over the intercom. It's a new motivational script they want us to use. Someone at corporate must have decided yelling makes people faster. They're leaning hard into fulfillment now. They're calling it the future of retail, like it's a shiny new thing and not just the same old work with different labels. You'll learn the priorities quick. Express orders come before everything. They don't care what's already in progress. They don't care if we're short-staffed. And they don't care what the store looks like. Express gets priority, period. How fast do they want it? Home office looks at the store layout, the square footage, and the aisle maps. They run their little math, assume perfect conditions and perfect bodies, and they tell us what optimum productivity should be. 10 seconds per item, on average. 10. That includes walking, scanning, digging through shelves customers have wrecked, and dealing with things being in the wrong place. Unrealistic? Don't say that word in front of the hourly associates. Not if you want them to stay even semi-trainable. Corporate will tell you it's only slightly more competitive than industry standard, and that it's more time than it sounds like, if people are properly motivated. That's where you come in. Motivation. I hope you're not shy. Quiet leaders don't last here. They get swallowed up. You look nervous, but don't be. You just can't let the mouth breathers walk all over you. And don't give me that look. It's not like they can hear us anyway. You notice the earbuds. Good eye. They're allowed to wear them. But they aren't listening to music. Those are AOEIEDs. Yeah, I know. Another lovely acronym. We call them OWIEs because the babies need them to hit their numbers. It stands for Awareness Override In-Ear Device. The name makes it sound gentle and helpful, like a productivity tool, like a training aid. What it really does is keep them locked on task. It doesn't shut them off completely, not officially. They still hear enough to avoid lawsuits, but it tunes out anything that isn't the job. Noise, distractions, the normal little thoughts that make a person slow down and ask, why am I doing this? It doesn't replace management. They still need a leader, someone to follow, someone to fear. And speaking of management, you'll want to check your email. Always. Home Office just authorized corporal punishment. Yes, really. There are rules, of course, forms, approved methods, mandatory reporting. You'll see it all in your inbox. When was the last time you checked it? This morning? You're funny. Professional advice. Keep your email open like it's oxygen. Learn to check it in your sleep. Don't laugh at me. You won't be laughing when the performance notes start hitting your account every hour like clockwork. Now, the machine is already moving, and it doesn't stop just because a new person is trying to catch up. Did you download the app yet? Good. Initiative. I like that. Right now, the screen probably looks like a mess of symbols, numbers, and colored bars. But it'll mean everything to you soon. You see that counter? That's the number of items left for this hour's orders. You see the timer next to it? That's how close you are to being late, even if you're standing perfectly still and doing everything right. Remember what I told you? If you're not early, you're already late. You see that associate icon near the back of the store? The one not moving? Yeah, he's been in the bathroom for 3 minutes. The app shows you his location on the map. Nice feature, right? Operational visibility, they call it. Now, next to his username, there's a button that says Motivate. Go on, press it. No, don't hold it down. What are you doing? You trying to kill him? Just a quick tap. There. Good. See his icon move? Little faster now. Put some energy back in his legs, didn't it? And here he comes. Right on schedule, like a good boy. Jalen. Nice of you to join us. Clean yourself up on your lunch break, okay? Customers complain about smells, and corporate pretends to care about customer experience. Truth is, half the customers smell too, but Home Office sent a memo about acceptable trade-offs while we grow the online side of the business. Most of the associates have started wearing diapers. I'm not kidding. It sounds insane until you watch them try to hit pick rates for 8 hours. They do what they have to do. Jalen's a special case, though. His diet is disgusting. I swear he thinks he found some loophole by hiding the owie where the sun doesn't shine. I'm getting rid of him today. I'm just waiting until the end of his shift. Now that you've seen the front of the house, let's go to the back. That's where your real world is. That's where orders go out. That's where your numbers live or die. This is the dispense area. The lot. Hot out here, isn't it? Even when the air is cold, the work makes it hot. See those guys sweating out there? Working like they're being chased? Don't worry. We've got a solution. We're the biggest retailer on the planet. We always have a solution. See that valve on the wall? Go ahead and turn it. What do you mean? Cruel. They love it. Look at them slide around. Look at the way they scramble when the pavement turns slick. It's almost fun if you don't think too hard about it. Just make sure you only do it after they've dispensed the order. We don't want product damaged, not unless the customer isn't worth the trouble. And hey, if you see a food stamps order and you're feeling petty, well, you didn't hear that from me. I shouldn't talk like that. Food stamps keep the lights on, and corporate loves the numbers. But still, some of us have to work for a living, right? Now watch this. That driver is taking too long. It's not our dispense associate's fault, but it doesn't matter. Red is red. Late is late. Listen up. You have 5 seconds to either find your code or find Jesus. 5, 4, 3. See? Was that so hard? You have to show the drivers who's in charge. They don't work directly for us, but they're the face the customer sees, which means their mistakes become our problem. That's where your discretion comes in. If the car smells like smoke, assign a new driver. If they show up with a dog in the back seat and no trunk space, assign a new driver. If their bass is rattling the dispense door, you hold the power. Use it, and you already know the company's public position on diversity and inclusion. They love posters. They love statements. In real life, use your discretion if I'm making myself clear. Before we go any further, I should probably address the elephant in the room. What? No, not that. Don't worry about that thing right now. It's supposed to be here. We'll talk about what it does later. As for what it is, let's just say your employer is cutting edge in more ways than they put in the commercials. Technology, sure. And biotech, too. I can tell I've got your attention now. Good. But first, the real elephant. The rumors. Yes, you've heard things about your predecessors. And yes, some of them are true. A lot of people have tried to do the job you're standing in right now. A lot of people have failed. 8 people? No, that's exaggerated. Depends how far back someone wants to count. But you will be number 7 at least this year. Lucky number 7. They didn't all die. I know that's what you're thinking. Stop staring at that thing. Stay focused. Stay productive. You don't want corrective action on your first day, do you? Only the first one died on the job. Heart attack. It wasn't a mystery. It was his lifestyle doing the heavy lifting. It happened during Black Friday, sure. But that's not the company's fault. If he had planned his business, he'd still be alive. That's what the report said, anyway. The next 2 stepped down. If you ever get the chance to use the manager's private restroom, you'll meet them. Well, one of them. Depends whether you're doing a number 1 or a number 2. After them, we got a guy who was, how do I say it? Haunted. The numbers got into his head. He took everything personal. Don't take things personal, kid. That's a nickel's worth of advice from an old chunk of coal. He stopped sleeping. I only sleep in little 20-minute chunks between 10 and 2. But this guy? His eyes turned so dark by the end that he looked like he had bruises where sleep should have been. I don't want to get political, but not everyone should own a gun. What? No, nothing like that. I'm not saying he came in here to make a statement. He just shot a driver. Then he shot himself when he realized what he'd done. Be careful dispensing at night. They still haven't fixed the light he blew out when he... Never mind. After him, Home Office sent a ringer. A real professional. She was amazing. If you say her name in here, some of the old-timers still move faster. Watch this. Evelyn, look at them. Scrambling like cockroaches when you flip on a kitchen light. She did a number on them that one over there just about jumped out of his skin. Another one practically peed himself. She was too good for this job, though. I knew it the day I came in for a surprise visit and saw an associate seizing on the floor. Evelyn didn't even blink. She just manually clocked him out for his break. Ruthless efficiency. She's at home office now, which brings us to your immediate predecessor, Ken. When we spoke on the phone, I told you he'd be training you before stepping down. Unfortunately, he's no longer available. Good riddance. Between me and you, he was a drug addict. I just couldn't prove it. Funny thing is, corporate has revised their position on certain controlled substances, as long as you have the right job code. Believe it or not, in your new role, you'll be cleared to take certain performance supplements that even your store manager isn't allowed to touch. So, back to that accident you mentioned. Was it a blue car? Kind of sporty? Hard to tell, right? Just flames and metal twisted up? Well, he did leave in a hurry, and I can't see his dot on my phone anymore. Anyway, we were about to go over the new system. The real reason you're here. It's bleeding edge, the kind of thing corporate thinks will keep them ahead of competitors. Because if you're not early, you're what? That's right. You're already late. I knew you'd learn quick. So, in the spirit of being early, I'd like to introduce you to the Bioorganic Monitoring Buddy. We call it the BOMB. Yeah, I know. Cheesy. Corporate loves cute names for ugly tools. But I'll tell you this. That thing is the future. You think the app is impressive. Wait until we plug that buddy into your spine. Don't go soft on me now. This store is part of a pilot program. Corporate partnered with a university. You didn't know that, did you? When you did your drug screening, they told you they were testing for COVID, right? Didn't you think it was strange they swabbed your cheek instead of your nose? We had to sync the system with your DNA. And I may have overstated the importance of checking your email. Once the bomb fully bonds, your emails won't be on a screen anymore. They'll be sent straight to your brain. You'll receive them the way you receive hunger or pain. Instant. Impossible to ignore. Those multifaceted eyes will be yours too. I'm jealous, honestly. You'll be able to see every employee at the same time. Imagine it. No blind spots. No hiding. No bathrooms without consequences. You're probably wondering how you can see through shelves, through end caps, through mountains of merchandise. That's where the buddy part comes in. See it up there, hanging in the corner of the ceiling, like it's just resting? You ever dream of being Spider-Man? Three-dimensional movement, climbing, sticking to surfaces. It has something to do with the fingers, the lab guys said. Van der Waals forces. All I know is you'll be able to move across walls and ceilings like the building belongs to you. You won't be able to use your phone anymore, but you won't need it. That motivate button, already on the way out. Corporate is phasing it out in rural markets first. Out there, they've been using cattle prod since the beginning. Old habits die hard. You're going to have to handle change. I think that's what broke the other managers, honestly. They couldn't adapt fast enough. And in this business, change is the only constant. A lot of employers talk about work-life balance. They throw those words around like candy. I'm not that guy. I don't give you sugar with your medicine. This job isn't for everyone. You're going to have long nights. Holidays, weekends, all of that is basically gone. You already knew that, I'm sure. Some days it won't feel balanced at all. But with the bomb, I can offer something better. Full work-life integration. Deal? Good. I knew we hired the right person. Now I've been told this next stage can be painful. Just relax. Don't embarrass yourself. You can't lose control in front of the associates on day one. They can smell weakness like spilled milk. There you go. Let it sink that needle into your spine. That's the main connection. Just let it do its thing. Those tentacles are supposed to go there. I was told they monitor your vital signs. And yes, they have teeth. They need a good reading. Now the eyes. Tell me what you see. Can you see the numbers? What's our on-time pick? 93.5? That's not good. Not good at all. The new system has safeguards, corrective actions, automatic consequences. You're probably feeling it right now. It's one reason they needed your DNA. Not just for bonding, but to tailor the reaction. Anaphylaxis is a big word, but you'll learn it fast when your throat starts to tighten and your face starts to swell. You better get these people moving. You're looking a little puffy already. If the numbers keep dropping, you might want to try a manual override. What's that? Anything to stop the pain? Come on, you're only at a 93.5. That's not even failing yet. Oh, it dropped again? 91.6? Yeah, that one hurts. You don't want it below 90. If it goes below 90, I get a message from my boss, and you really don't want to know what happens after that. Corporate doesn't do anger. They do procedure. They do correction. They do it until whatever is wrong stops being wrong, one way or another. So, about that override, you need another person. The system won't accept just you. It needs a second body. Normally, I'd recommend using whoever's numbers are the worst, because it makes sense, right? Weakest link. Fix the chain. But since we're letting Jalen go anyway, Jalen, get your ass back to the dispense store. Now. You won't have to talk like that once the system is fully online, trust me. If I didn't know how it worked, I'd be scared of you too. Here he comes. God, that kid stinks. Jalen, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. You're fired. Don't look so happy. You're still on the clock. I need you to do one last thing. You're going to help the new boss with a manual override. I know you've never done it. Ken was too scared to put on the bomb. He talked big, but he wouldn't do what it took. All you have to do is stand there. The bomb will do the work. Maintenance. Get over here. Pick up and delivery. Bring a mop. So, you see, the numbers didn't actually improve, but the bomb is satisfied now. It's calmer, like a dog that stopped barking because you finally fed it. Make sure you're always hiring. Turnover is insane here. People quit, people disappear, people stop answering their phones. And somehow, the work still has to get done. You just can't find good help anymore. I'm going to let you get your feet wet soon. With those numbers, you're in for a long night. But at least dinner is handled, right? You're probably wondering how you go to the bathroom now. I saw you checking. I wasn't the only one. You might be able to watch them all now, but they've been watching you too, the whole time. The cameras, the systems, the little policies that turn into habits. You're not the only one being measured. Don't worry about it. Your biological functions are now set to a schedule that fits our hours of operation. Corporate calls it efficiency. I've heard the result can be unpleasant. Do it behind the building when you need to. Try not to scare customers. And if you see homeless people back there, run them off. We can't have them near the orders. Just don't make a scene because corporate hates scenes unless they're profitable. Unless you need anything else, I'm going to head out. If you need me, you have my cell. I know you can't use a normal phone anymore, what with the gecko DNA and everything. But the lab guys claim you can text telepathically now. I'm jealous of that one. But I guess we'll all have it eventually. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but who knows what access you have now, and it's not like secrets last long in a place like this. The AOEDs, those were just the prototype. Next year, they roll out the full biotech upgrades, and this store is the pilot location. I saw them at the annual meeting. They looked like little slugs in clear containers, twitching like they were dreaming. Anyway, that's it. Keep your numbers up and you'll be fine. Remember, you're their leader. They must respect you, not just fear you. Don't hit the manual override just because you failed to lead. And don't play favorites. Fair is fair. The bomb eats whoever's numbers are the lowest. Just keep hiring. A monkey could do this job. Goodbye for now. I'll follow up soon. Don't forget the daily conference calls. And follow up, follow up, follow up. People respect what you inspect. And with those eyes, you shouldn't miss a thing. Always remember, if you're not early, you're already late. Story 3. My relationship was over, and I needed it to be over. I bought my ticket and got on the train as fast as I could. Like if I slowed down for even a second, I might lose my nerve and go back to him. The moment my foot hit the floor, I found a seat in one of the booths. I chose the one closest to the door, the easiest escape. If I had to get off at a stop just to breathe real air, I wanted it to take 2 steps, not 20. A couple sat across from me, the kind of couple that looks like they're trying to prove something. Their elbows were pressed together on the table, their fingers locked tight like handcuffs, and they kept leaning in until they were basically breathing the same air. I felt a wave of disgust rise up, sharp and sudden. Then I felt guilty for it because my disgust wasn't really about them, it was about me. I was crawling out of an abusive relationship and my nerves were raw. Everything that looked like love made me want to gag, because I didn't trust it anymore. I scooted as close to the window as I could and kept the blind on my side up, even though most people pulled theirs down. I wanted to watch the world move. I wanted to see nightfall and feel like my past was finally slipping away, frame by frame, like dust shaking off my skin. I was going home for the first time in 20 years, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. That fact sat in my chest like a heavy stone. I kept repeating the same thought to myself over and over. It will be different this time. You can handle them. You can handle being around all of them. But the anxiety in me wasn't a normal worry. It was huge, bottomless like a storm drain with no end. I could feel myself tipping toward it. When my body gets tired, my mind goes with it. I knew that. I'd lived with it long enough to recognize the early warning signs. I pressed my forehead to the cold glass and silently begged my brain not to embarrass me. Not now. Not in front of strangers. Not on the way back to the family who had left me behind. By the time the train settled into its steady rhythm, I realized how hungry I was. My stomach felt hollow, like it was eating itself. It was around lunchtime, and I couldn't be the only person hoping food would appear. I slid out of the booth just as the couple across from me started kissing in a way that felt aggressive, like they were trying to climb inside each other. I turned away fast and headed toward the employee cart. There was a woman in an attendant uniform standing there smiling at me. Her makeup was heavy and perfect, like a mask carefully painted on. The kind of makeup that looks fine from far away but strange up close, because it hides too much. Still, her voice was friendly, bright. "When will lunch be served?" I asked, leaning in just enough to be heard without stepping into the cart. "Very soon," she said, cheerful like this was her favorite part of the day. "We'll be enjoying roasted chicken thighs and mashed potatoes, with a side of macaroni and cheese." It sounded so specific that it almost made me laugh, like she'd been waiting to say it. Her smile didn't slip, but something in her eyes felt off. Not angry, not sad, more like she was holding something back. "Awesome," I said. "Sounds great. Thanks." I started back toward my seat, then another thought hit me. I needed to know when the next stop was. There was a smoking car on this train, but I wasn't going anywhere near it. I could already imagine the stale fog in there, breath and smoke and perfume mixing into a thick cloud that would cling to my hair and skin. No. I'd rather step out into freezing air at a stop and shake in the cold than suffocate in that rolling trap. So I turned back toward the employee cart to ask one more question. The attendant I'd just spoken to was gone. In her place, right on the floor of the cart, was a mound of chocolate ice cream, glossy and half melted, like someone had dumped a giant scoop straight from an industrial tub. Two cherries sat on top, close together. They looked like eyes. I stopped so fast my body jolted. For a second I couldn't make sense of it. It was like my brain tried to label it as a prank, then failed. The ice cream didn't belong there. It wasn't in a bowl. It wasn't on a tray. It was just on the floor, spreading slowly outward, slick and dark. Another attendant stepped into the cart behind it, walked right through the mess like it wasn't even there, and didn't slip, didn't react, didn't look down. The ice cream didn't smear under her shoes. It was as if her feet had passed through air. She looked at me and smiled, bright and polite, the same kind of smile as the first woman. "Are you having a good ride?" she asked. "Is there something I can help you with?" I blinked hard. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. Maybe I'd stared too long at the window. Maybe my body was crashing and my brain was doing that thing it sometimes does, the thing where reality starts to feel thin around the edges. "No, ma'am," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Thank you." I walked back to my booth. The man from the couple was gone. The woman was still there, scrolling on her phone like nothing had happened, her face lit by the blue glow. The table was clean. The seat looked normal. I sat down, and for the first time during the ride, I let my feet drop onto the table. My shoe touched something cold and slimy. I jerked my foot back instantly and leaned down to look. Under the table, right where the man's legs had been, was another mound of melting ice cream. This one was vanilla pale and slick. Two cherries sat on top. Again, they looked like eyes, and they were angled toward me. The stems were tipped back, like eyebrows. The cherries had begun to slide as the ice cream melted, leaving shiny trails. One cherry shifted slightly, sinking into the softening surface, and I swear the way the cream slipped over it looked like a blink. I sat there, staring, my skin crawling, and looked up at the woman across from me. She didn't even glance down. She didn't seem to smell anything. She was sitting in a puddle that was slowly spreading under her, and she acted like it was nothing. "Where is your husband?" I asked, keeping my voice light like I was making small talk. "Oh, he went to the bathroom," she said, waving her hand without looking up from her phone. My throat tightened. The ice cream under the table glistened. It didn't look like dessert anymore. It looked like something that used to be part of a person, something that had leaked out of a seat and was pooling on the floor. The cherries stayed close together. They stared. I laughed under my breath because I didn't know what else to do. A sharp little sound that wasn't humor, more like disbelief. Was I dreaming? Was I having some kind of stress break? Or had my ex finally done what he always threatened to do and I was dying somewhere, hallucinating on the way out? I decided to ignore it, not because I felt brave, but because if I didn't ignore it, I didn't know what I would do. I pulled my legs up onto my seat, stacked my ankles, and pressed my head against the cold window. The chill grounded me. The glass was hard and real. Outside, the sky was darkening. And for a few minutes, I let myself pretend that meant my past was truly behind me. I must have dozed off, because the next thing I knew, I needed the restroom badly. I got up, leaving the woman across from me still scrolling, still ignoring the melting vanilla mess beside her like it was invisible. As I walked down the aisle toward the bathrooms, I glanced into other cars. Some booths were clean, filled with people chatting like normal. Other booths were smeared with melting cream, thick piles that slumped and spread. In some places, it looked like strawberry. In others, chocolate. In others, something green like pistachio. And almost every mound had two cherries on top, angled toward the aisle. People stepped around them or through them. Sometimes a passenger's shoe would land right in the middle of a puddle and they wouldn't react. No slip, no stain. It was like the mess existed only for me. I stepped over a mound near one doorway and hurried to the restroom. locked myself inside, and turned around to lift the toilet seat. A pile of dripping strawberries sat on the lid. 2 cherries were set into it like eyes. In the middle, the uneven smear of fruit and cream made a shape that looked like a smile, not a cute one, a wrong one. My body instantly decided I didn't have to pee anymore. My bladder went tight as a fist. I backed out of the stall, washed my hands even though they weren't dirty, just because I needed something normal to do, and left. When I returned to my car, there were fewer people than before. Not just fewer in my booth, fewer everywhere. The aisles felt wider. The voices seemed farther away, and the ice cream mounds were more common now, like they were spreading. The cherries were everywhere, turned in the same direction, toward me. I walked faster, trying not to look at them. In one booth, the vanilla sludge had started to mix with pistachio, the 2 colors twisting together where the puddles met. Each mound still had its own cherries, 2 and 2, close enough to look like faces, far enough apart that I could tell they were separate pairs. The stems curved outward. The round parts of the cherries, the parts with the little dimple, faced me like pupils. My fear started to flatten into something else, a strange curiosity. Because the longer this went on, the more I realized something important. I hadn't seen anyone change. I'd only seen the aftermath. I'd turn away and then the ice cream would be there. I'd blink and someone would be gone. It was as if whatever was happening refused to let me witness the moment itself. I found an open booth in an emptier car and sat down. No people, no mess. I propped my feet up and leaned my head against the window again. Outside was a blizzard, not a pretty snowfall, an ugly, thick whiteout that swallowed everything. The world beyond the glass looked like flashing static, like a broken TV channel. I couldn't see trees, I couldn't see buildings, I couldn't even see the shape of the land, just white and movement. It made my stomach twist. I needed to see something solid, some sign of a town or a station or even a fence line. Anything that proved we were still traveling through a real place. My body reminded me again that I still had to use the restroom. There had to be at least one bathroom that wasn't like that. I left my booth and went searching. Every restroom door I opened showed the same thing. Melting cream, watching cherries. Like the whole train had been claimed, stall by stall. Finally, I found one where the pile wasn't on the toilet itself, just balanced on the lid. I couldn't avoid it anymore. I couldn't hold it until the next stop because I didn't even know when the next stop would come. I braced my arms on the doorway and used my foot to nudge the lid up. The tip of my shoe touched the sticky edge, and I felt it give, soft and slick. I pushed harder and flipped the lid back fast. The ice cream flew. It splattered against the wall and the floor in pale streaks. A cherry bounced once and rolled, leaving a wet line, then stopped with its dimple facing up. At least the toilet was clear. I hovered over the seat, refusing to sit down, trying to pee while the mess stared from the floor like it was still watching. I kept my eyes fixed on the door latch the whole time, like if I didn't look at it directly, it couldn't get into my head. When I left the restroom, the train felt wrong in a new way. Quiet. Not the normal quiet of people napping, a dead quiet, like the air itself had gone still. I walked through car after car and realized most of the conversations were gone. Many cars were empty of people, filled only with thick puddles and slumped mounds. The cherries were turned toward the aisle, toward me, as if tracking my movement. Then suddenly, I stepped into a car where people were still laughing and drinking like nothing was happening. A drink cart was moving down the aisle. Glasses clinked. Someone told a joke. It felt like stepping from a nightmare into a normal afternoon. I moved through the crowd carefully, trying not to step in any puddles, though I couldn't trust my eyes anymore, and people stared at me like I was the strange one, like I was the problem walking through their normal world. I needed to get off this train. I needed a station, a town, a street with ordinary rules. I sat back down in a booth near the door and forced myself to sit upright, as if posture alone could keep me from falling apart. An attendant stopped by with the cart. "Would you like a drink?" she asked. "Yes," I said instantly before I could think. She handed me a glass of wine. My fingers shook a little as I took it. I drank too fast, desperate for anything that made me feel human again. The liquid burned slightly as it went down, and I welcomed the burn. I watched the attendant walk away. She stayed solid, fully human. No melting, no slipping, no change. For a moment, hope sparked in me. Maybe whatever this was only affected certain people. Maybe it was some kind of gas, some weird contamination, and only some passengers were reacting to it. But it didn't make sense. If it was a disease, why was nobody noticing? Why was nobody screaming? Why was nobody reacting to the mess? The attendant rolled the cart back past my booth. I stood and caught her attention. "When is the next stop?" I asked. "Oh, soon," she said. "Any minute now?" I laughed nervously, then sat back down. The wine buzzed faintly in my head, but it didn't calm me. It made my thoughts feel slippery, like they could slide into panic faster. I realized something that made my stomach drop. I never saw anyone melt, not once. I always turned away, or I blinked, or I stepped into another car. Then the ice cream was there, like it happened only when I wasn't looking. I needed to see it. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. I found an older man sitting alone in a booth. He looked friendly, the kind of person who talks to strangers because he's lonely. I asked if I could sit, and he smiled like he'd been waiting for company. He started telling me about the war and about his son, how proud he was that his boy had gone into the military too. His voice was steady, calm, full of ordinary details. I watched his face closely, too closely. I tried to pretend I was just listening, but I was studying him, looking for the first sign of sagging skin or slipping eyes. I couldn't tell if his wrinkles were just age or something starting. An hour passed and he stayed solid. Then he stood up and said he needed the restroom. My heart thumped hard. I forced a smile and let him go first. Then I followed at a distance, keeping him in sight as much as I could without being obvious. I dodged mounds on either side of the aisle, all of them with cherry eyes turned toward me, and waited outside the restroom door while he went in. I couldn't follow him inside without looking insane, so I waited, first in line. More people lined up behind me. I heard murmurs, sighs, someone tapping their foot. The old man took a long time, too long. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. My skin prickled. I pushed the door handle. It was unlocked. The door creaked open. Inside, there was no old man, only a mound of melting ice cream slumped near the toilet, and two cherries stared up at me with an expression that looked impossibly like the old man's face. Not a perfect match, not a photograph, just the same sagging, wrinkled sadness captured in fruit and cream. Someone behind me shouted, annoyed, accusing me of holding up the line for an empty stall. I stepped back quickly and let the door close, my hands shaking. I walked away more confused than ever. Why couldn't I see it happen? Why did it only happen when I wasn't watching? What rule was this thing following? I tried again. I sat with a young family, mother, father, and a baby. They were cheerful, passing snacks back and forth, making the baby giggle. I sat across from them and felt like a creep, staring too hard, so I closed my eyes and listened instead. Every time there was a pause in their laughter, I opened my eyes quickly to check if they were still themselves. For a long time they were. Then, finally, I saw it. It happened to all three of them at once, like a switch flipped. Their faces drooped. Their eyes seemed to sink lower. sliding down toward their cheeks. Their chins sagged toward their chests. Their skin looked like it was loosening, as if gravity had suddenly doubled. Then the skin split, not with blood, with color. Vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, twisting beneath like their bodies had been made of flavors instead of flesh. In seconds, they slumped down into the booth, turning into a soft spiral of cream and syrup. The baby's little shape collapsed into the same mess, and the sound it made, if it made any sound at all, didn't reach me. The train noise swallowed everything. I let out a breath through my nose, long and shaky, and stood up fast so the spreading sludge wouldn't reach my shoes. I looked down. Each of them had whipped cream piled on top like hair. Each of them had cherries set in 2 at a time. And I swear I saw the cherries shift slightly so they were looking at me more directly. As I moved down the aisle, I saw it happening in other booths too. People sagging, collapsing, turning into mounds. Some changed while I watched. Some changed when I looked away for half a second. The floor grew slick with seeping sweetness. The air smelled like sugar and cold dairy, and it made me want to vomit. I started running. Where was I running? Toward the front, toward the conductor, toward the only person who had to be real, because someone had to be driving this train. I sprinted as fast as I could without slipping, my shoes skidding slightly on patches of goo. I shoved past doorways where thick puddles oozed out into the aisle. The cherry eyes followed me in every car, hundreds of them now, turned like a crowd watching a show. When I reached the door to the conductor's cabin, I pounded on it until my knuckles hurt. No answer. I slammed my palm against it again and again, shouting, though I don't even remember what I yelled. Help. Stop. Open up. I yanked the door open. Inside was a mound of ice cream swirled in 2 flavors, Rocky Road and mint chocolate chip, slumped where a person should have been. No controls moved, no hands on the lever, no human presence at all. No one was driving this train. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. But through the front window I saw lights ahead, faint shapes through the blizzard. A town, a station, something. Surely the train would have to stop. Surely it couldn't just speed through a town. I ran back to grab my bag, the only thing I had, and planted myself near the doors. The floor there was wet with melted mess, but I didn't care. My heart was beating so loudly it felt like it might crack my ribs. The train slowed. The platform appeared outside, blurry with snow. When the doors opened, I pushed through the people crowding to get on, desperate, half-sobbing with relief, and stepped onto the platform like I'd escaped a burning building. Cold air hit my face. Real air. I sucked it in like I'd been underwater. I turned around just in time to watch the train pull away again, rolling off into the white storm with cars full of people, normal-looking people. Not one of them screamed. Not one of them complained. Not one of them seemed to notice the thick smears of ice cream on the seats and floors and walls. It was like I was the only one who could see it. My phone finally caught a signal. My hands shook as I opened an app and ordered a ride. I was a town over from where I needed to be, close enough to feel the pull of home, far enough that I couldn't walk it. I offered extra money for the long drive and got matched with someone willing to take me. When the driver arrived, his car looked painfully clean. No sticky floors, no weird smells, just fabric seats and a faint scent of air freshener. I got in the back and gave him the address. He typed it into his GPS and pulled away. For a few minutes, I just stared out the window, trying to convince my body it was over, that the train was gone, that I was safe. At a red light, the driver turned down the music and looked back at me. "There's a creamery at the next turn," he said casually. "Best ice cream in the state. You want to stop and grab some before we keep going?" My whole body went hot with panic. My mouth moved before my brain could soften it. "No," I snapped, loud enough to make him jump. His eyes widened in the rearview mirror. "I'm sorry," I said quickly, forcing my tone down. "No, thank you. I'm fine." He nodded slowly and turned the music back up, awkwardness filling the car. I leaned my head against the cold window, breathing in and out with my eyes closed. The steady motion of the car felt too much like the train, and my stomach rolled. Every so often I opened my eyes to check the driver's shoulders, his hands, the side of his face in the mirror, terrified I'd see skin drooping. Terrified I'd watch him turn into something sweet and melting while we were still moving. He stayed normal the whole drive. When we finally reached my childhood home, I tipped him extra, more than I could afford, because I was grateful in a way that felt desperate. Then I got out and stood on the sidewalk staring at the front door. I didn't tell anyone about the train. I couldn't. If I said it out loud, someone would suggest a hospital, a psych evaluation, a locked room. And maybe they'd be right. Maybe my mind had snapped. But even if it had, I didn't want to be treated like I was dangerous to myself. I just wanted to get inside. I just wanted it to be over. I made myself one promise as I walked to the steps. I will never eat ice cream again. I will never go near it again. If avoiding it is what keeps me sane, then fine. I can live without it. I knocked. Footsteps came toward the door. My heart started racing again, but I told myself it was just nerves. It was just my mother, old, human, real. The door opened. My mother stood there, looking smaller than I remembered, her hair thinner, her face more lined. For 1 second, relief flooded me. Then I saw what she was holding. A sundae in a glass dish, ice cream piled high with sauce dripping down the sides, 2 cherries on top. My vision narrowed. My stomach lurched. I almost lost my balance on the step. She stared at me like she couldn't believe it was me. Her hands shook. The dish slipped. It fell. The sundae hit the ground near my foot and spread into a thick, creamy puddle, flowing like a slow little river. The cherries rolled and stopped facing up, their dimples like open eyes. I flinched back automatically, stepping away from it, my skin prickling all over. My mother gasped, then reached for me, tears already filling her eyes. Her face was real. Her arms were warm. She wasn't melting. She was just an old woman who had dropped what she was holding because her child had come home after 20 years. I hugged her, stiff at first, then tighter. I felt her bones under her sweater. I smelled her soap. I listened to her cry into my shoulder, the sound messy and human. She pulled back and smiled through tears, and for a moment, she looked genuinely happy to see me. "Come in," she said softly, as if she was afraid I'd vanish. I stepped over the doorway into the warmth of the house and didn't look back at the melted dessert on the porch. I left the creamy puddle behind like it didn't exist. I told myself the train was gone. And I held on to that thought like a life raft, even though somewhere deep inside me, I could still feel 100 cherry eyes watching. Story 4. People always ask the same thing when they hear about Fairview. How did it happen? How did our school turn into what it is now? How did we become ground zero like we're some science experiment that went wrong in a lab? Was it a gas leak? Radiation? Some kind of chemical spill? Bad water? Bad air? Something in the vents. Some people will probably blame Wi-Fi. My Grammy would. According to her, Wi-Fi messes with your molecules. She never explained what that meant, but she said it with the kind of confidence that made you feel stupid for asking. She also believed I'd develop serious health problems if I slept with my phone next to my head or stood too close to the microwave while it was running. She'd point at it like it was a weapon and tell me to step back. I'm sure at some point someone will build a whole theory around 5G, because people are like that. You don't have to be infected with anything to believe crazy stuff if it makes you feel like you understand the world. But no, None of that. The reason our school got wiped out and then sealed off wasn't a natural disaster or a terrorist attack or some government experiment. It was an April Fool's joke. It was a prank that went wrong, and it was done by my best friend. Maybe this thing will break out beyond the school someday. Maybe it already has and we just don't know yet. Maybe there'll be some leak, some outbreak in the real world, and then all of this will make the news in a way people can't ignore. Until then, this is still trapped inside Fairview, like rot inside a wall. And we've been trapped with it for a year. Well, not exactly living. I'll get to that. Before April 1st, 2021, I honestly didn't think I was capable of doing anything truly bad. I'm not saying I was an angel. In 4th grade, I stole a Twinkie on a dare because I wanted to impress some girls in my class. My mom acted like I'd committed a war crime and grounded me for 2 weeks, so I filed that away in my brain as proof that crime doesn't pay. But real bad things? No. I used to believe the usual teenage lies, like nothing permanent could happen to me, like consequences were something that only happened to adults on the news. I was a dumb kid. I still am, in a lot of ways. But living through this, whatever this is, forces you to see things clearly. It's like the world strips you down to the basics: food, sleep, safety, guilt, fear. And the parts of you that you thought were solid start to feel thin. One thing I can say is, my mom was right about screen time making you sick. I'm still not sure about the microwave. Grammy had some wild theories. If I ever get out of here alive, maybe I'll tell you about them. Like a funny little family story. Like a normal person with a normal life. I promise myself that sometimes it helps. Anyway, the beginning. I thought the worst part of that day was going to be Connor Marlowe rejecting me. That's almost funny now, how small my world was. That morning already felt cursed. I woke up with a gross headache, the kind that sits behind your eyes and makes light too bright. There was no milk for cereal. I'd forgotten about an essay that was due, and my backpack felt like it weighed 20 pounds just from the guilt alone. It was April Fool's Day, though, and that at least gave me something to look forward to. Our school always went hard. Every year it turned into this unofficial competition where students tried to outdo each other with the biggest prank. Sometimes it was harmless, sometimes it was mean, and sometimes it was the kind of thing teachers pretended not to notice because it was easier than dealing with it. That year, everybody was hungry to take down Melanie Topper's crown. Melanie was the 2019 winner. We don't talk about 2020 because 2020 barely felt real, and nobody wants to remember it. But in 2019, Melanie had pulled off something legendary. She somehow got access to the school Canon noise system and broadcast one of those fake emergency alert messages like you hear on TV. It happened at 9 a.m. when most of us were still half asleep. Suddenly, the tannoy screamed that Earth was under attack, that an alien invasion was imminent, and she even played a siren. You can imagine the chaos. People cried. People screamed. Teachers ran into the halls. I was a confused freshman back then, running on little sleep after a Netflix binge, and I nearly panicked so hard I couldn't breathe. Melanie got suspended, but she tried to defend it by claiming she was copying the famous War of the Worlds radio broadcast for an assignment. Nobody bought it, but she still became a legend. If your prank scares the entire building, you win. That seemed to be the rule. Ever since then, Melanie held the top spot. And that year, there were rumors the next prank was going to be bigger. I'd heard people whispering in the hallways, like they were talking about a sports game. Someone was going to knock Melanie off the throne, and my best friend Rory was desperate to be that person. The thing is, that morning, I wasn't thinking about Rory. I was thinking about Connor Marlowe. I'd been crushing on him for a while, the kind of crush that makes you feel sick in a way you almost enjoy. The butterflies, the dumb daydreams, the way you practice conversations in your head and imagine different outcomes. I don't even know what it was about him. Connor wasn't what you'd call conventionally attractive. Most days, he looked like he'd rolled out of bed and given up halfway through getting ready. Dark hair that never seemed fully brushed, plaid shirts, and that beaten-up camera he carried everywhere on a ribbon around his neck like it was part of him. He was awkward, but in a way that felt honest, not creepy. He was quiet, but still kind. The cute kind of awkward. The kind that makes you want to lean closer. We were friends through the school newspaper club. Connor took it seriously. He cared about photos and stories and layouts like it mattered, like it was practice for a real future. I mostly joined because it looked good on paper and because I liked being around him. We'd hung out enough that I let myself believe he liked me back. I was wrong. Badly wrong. If I'd actually listened to the usual gossip floating through school, I would have figured out Connor wasn't really into girls. But I was in denial, and denial makes you deaf. It was only much later, after everything ended, or ended, depending on how you look at it, that I learned the truth. By then, it didn't matter. By then, the world had different problems. That morning, I'd gone through our possible conversation 1,000 times. I told myself the world could end at any time, and if it did, I'd regret never saying anything. I was also running on 3 or 4 cups of coffee, so I had this shaky confidence that felt like courage, but was mostly caffeine and panic. I caught Connor on the way to class. As usual, he was halfway in his own head, nodding to music through his earphones, eyes drifting, like his thoughts were somewhere above the ceiling. I had to tap him on the shoulder to get him to notice me. He turned around and his frown softened into a small smile when he saw me. He pulled one earbud out. "Mara," he said, like my name was something familiar and safe. He nodded toward the hallway. "Are you coming to class?" "If I have to," I said, trying to sound casual. He laughed. His laugh was one of the things I loved most, because it was easy. It wasn't forced, it didn't sound like he was trying to impress anyone. The problem with Connor was we didn't talk about normal stuff. We only really talked about schoolwork and the newspaper club, and that made it easy to run out of things to say when you wanted to talk about feelings. I spent most of my free time on TikTok. Connor was into things I didn't understand. He'd watched the director's cut of Midsummer in a theater and spent almost an hour talking about the cinematography and how it was a masterpiece. The only things I remembered were that someone ended up in a bear suit, and there was something gross involving blood. And the whole thing made me feel like I needed to go outside and breathe real air. When I admitted that to him once, he looked genuinely offended, like I'd insulted his religion. So, yeah, we didn't share interests. He could be pretentious, but I couldn't help it. He made me dizzy. And when you're a teenager, dizzy feels like love. We walked with the crowd of kids pushing toward first period, shoulder to shoulder, backpacks bumping. The whole building loud with voices and footsteps. Connor didn't say much, just offered awkward smiles now and then. His eyes kept flicking to his phone like he wanted to put his earphones back in and disappear into music. I suddenly wanted to sink into the floor. "Is the school newspaper club still tonight?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. We met every Thursday at 4 p.m. in room 45HF, which was technically a music room. There were only 5 of us. Me, Connor, James, who never did any real work and loved talking about his sex life in way too much detail. Sarah, who barely spoke but always brought homemade cake, and one other kid who came and went depending on sports. "Yep," Connor said, popping the P. He lifted his camera a little like he was excited just thinking about it. "I'm taking pictures of the new gym." The new gym smelled like burnt plastic and bleach and fresh paint. The idea of interviewing Coach Croft in there sounded like torture. Coach Croft treated interviews like interrogations. But Connor looked hopeful, so I nodded anyway. "Sure. Is Sarah still doing the piece on cyberbullying?" "Uh-huh. Connor played with the camera ribbon as we headed up the stairs. At the top, a group of kids were yelling about something. My stomach gurgled and I regretted the coffee. James is doing an article on the girls' swim team, Connor said, grinning. Of course he is, I muttered. What is there even to write about? No idea, Connor said. But it's James. He'll figure something out. He tries too hard. He lifted the camera like he was pretending to take a picture of me. And then I did it. I just forced the words out before I could overthink them. Hey, I said, do you want to hang out sometime? We reached the top of the stairs, and Connor hopped the last 2 steps, turning to face me. He tilted his head like he didn't fully understand what I meant. After the club meeting? He asked. Sure, I can text Sarah. My stomach dropped. He was so oblivious it almost hurt. Actually, I said, feeling my face heat up, I meant just the 2 of us, like a movie or something. Connor's smile felt like someone turned off a light. He ran a hand through his hair, and for a second he looked genuinely horrified, like he just realized he was about to hurt someone and couldn't stop it. Mara, he said, and then he let out a nervous little laugh. You're a great friend, but I don't really see you like that. He didn't finish, because a loud bang echoed down the corridor. We both jumped. A kid had walked headfirst into a locker. I recognized him vaguely. He was the kid with narcolepsy. He'd been the talk of the school in freshman year because he'd fall asleep anywhere, mid-conversation during tests, sometimes even while standing. At first, people thought it was kind of funny in a harmless way, until it happened constantly. Then he started collapsing in hallways, falling downstairs, and instead of being concerned, most kids treated him like he was an inconvenience. People called him a vampire. The crowd around us started laughing as the kid dropped to his knees to grab his laptop. Oh yeah, he grumbled, voice dripping sarcasm. I'm hilarious. All right, everyone, get it all out. Let's all laugh at the narcoleptic guy. Come on. He was smiling, but it wasn't real. It was like he was daring them to keep going. A senior named Joey Summers was standing nearby. Joey was one of those loud guys who treated cruelty like a sport. Dude, Joey said, just don't come to school. If you're gonna fall asleep everywhere, stay home. You're walking around like a zombie. The narcoleptic kid blinked, unimpressed. And, zombies have rights too, Joey. Joey laughed. You're so weird. Anything else? Or is that your daily dose of bullying? Just spitting facts, man. Spitting in my face, the kid muttered. Were you dropped on your head as a kid? Joey's smile hardened. What did you say, Vlad? Vlad, the kid repeated, way too calm for someone insulting a senior. That's a good one, Joey, Connor said, stepping in. Don't be an asshole. I'm not. Joey grinned wider. Bro walked straight into a locker. I told him to go to sleep. Look at him. He's a walking vegetable. The crowd laughed again. The kid's hands trembled as he opened his locker and grabbed his books. Keep laughing, he said, voice sharp. Keep fucking laughing, assholes. But because he was half joining the joke himself, the laughter died out and turned into awkward silence. Joey turned back to his friends like he'd already gotten bored. I was still watching the narcoleptic kid blink rapidly, disoriented, trying to find his bearings, when Connor moved in front of me again like he wanted to finish the conversation. It's not that I don't like you, Mara, he said quickly. It's fine, I said, because at that point I would have welcomed a meteor hitting the school. I obviously got the wrong idea. Then mine buzzed in my back pocket. And it wasn't just us. All around, kids were pulling out phones, frowning at screens. The whole hallway shifted in this weird way where everyone's attention got sucked down into their hands at once. Connor looked at his phone with a small, amused smile. What's this? Don't look at that, I said automatically. It's just Rory's April Fool's prank. And neither did anyone else. That's when my mind flashed back to the morning, to Rory shoving her phone in my face with a grin too big for her own good. A meme? I'd said. Unimpressed, Rory's smile could fix a bad mood instantly. She had that energy, like she was always about to do something. It's a TikTok. Yeah, I've seen it. It's funny, Rory insisted. Look at it. I pushed her phone away, smirking. Okay, but that's not April Fool's worthy. Rory's eyes had glinted like she was holding a secret. Not yet. That stopped me. What do you mean? Rory winked and ran ahead, forcing me to follow her. Hey, what did you do? I bought a thing. A thing? It was like $10. She was practically glowing. It's a mass text. It connects to the network and sends it to everyone's phones. Everyone. How cool is that? The way she said it, like she'd discovered magic, made me uneasy. Rory lowered her voice like it was exciting gossip. You can't get rid of it either unless you turn off your phone. It spreads like a parasite, not just phones, technology in general. She said that last part like she was imagining it crawling through wires. Wait, she added, eyes bright. Does that mean every device? Like printers? Toasters? No. I laughed, shoving her lightly. They mean TVs, smart boards, that kind of thing. But even while I laughed, part of me was thinking it sounded shady. Where did you even find it? I asked. I had to download another web browser, Rory said casually, like that meant nothing. My brain stalled. Rory, did you get this off some shady internet site? She shrugged. I don't think so. It was just a website. I don't really have it. I just have to give the go-ahead in the IT room. Then she pulled a USB drive from her pocket, like she was showing me jewelry. They told me I just plug it into any computer and they'll do the rest. I'd stopped walking. They... Like what? Like you're about to say it's a bad idea. Rory's voice echoed in my head now while I stood in the hallway watching Connor Marlowe stare at his phone. 15 seconds went by and he didn't blink. He didn't move. It wasn't just him. I saw other kids freeze too, like someone had hit pause on the building. A backpack slid off someone's shoulder and hit the floor. A girl dropped her latte, and the cup rolled, spilling coffee across the tiles. Things were hitting the floor everywhere. Laptops, jackets, but no phones. Nobody dropped their phone. Something cold ran down my spine as Connor's fingers tightened around his phone like his hand had locked up. His jaw slackened. Drool slid down his chin. He looked like he'd stopped being a person and turned into a puppet held upright by invisible strings. Maybe I imagined it, but I swear Connor's eyes lit up for a fraction of a second. Blue, not reflection blue, not the screen is bright blue, like electricity. A puddle of coffee spread near my shoes, soaking into the cracks between tiles. The whole world around me felt like it had gone weirdly still, like all the air had thickened. Connor, I managed, voice thin. I reached for my own phone because my brain still wanted this to be normal. Rory's video couldn't be that powerful. It was a stupid meme. And then the hallway broke. I don't know the exact second my brain accepted that something was seriously wrong. Maybe it was when Connor lifted his head and that human spark in his expression, something I'd always recognized as him, fizzled out like a dying bulb. There was something in the air, a crackle, a hum. I felt it in my teeth. All around me, bodies jolted like something had crawled into people's heads and yanked hard. Connor's body went limp, but he stayed standing. I couldn't speak. My throat locked. Then Joey Summers lunged at a girl near him and bit into her throat like he was starving, ripping it open. Everything after that happened in a chain reaction, like one match setting off a room full of gasoline. Kids attacked each other. A girl threw herself at two guys, and all three went tumbling down the stairs, clawing and tearing like they'd forgotten how hands are supposed to work. Scream after scream filled the corridor, raw and animal, but these weren't animals. They were my classmates. My eyes found Joey again. He was straddling the girl he'd attacked. Blood flooded across her collar and down the stairs, and my brain screamed one word at me: zombies. But Joey wasn't eating her. Not really. His face was blank, like he was studying her. Like he wasn't sure what he'd just done, but it didn't matter because his body had already moved on. He sprang up and ran down the hallway, slamming headfirst into a door with a loud, stupid bang that almost felt cartoonish. He was laughing. It took me a second to understand it because it didn't fit. Joey was giggling like a little kid, smashing his face into the door again and again and again. Blood splattered in wet arcs. He kept going, laughing harder, and then I saw him dig his fingers into his own eye sockets. A sound came out of him that I can't describe, like a scream and a laugh and a high electronic screech, all mixed together. He gouged at his eyes like he was trying to tear something out from behind them. I stepped backward without meaning to, but my eyes wouldn't leave him. Even when he collapsed to the ground, he pushed himself back up. Bang. His head hit the door again with a sick splat. He didn't stop. Half his head looked wrong, like it was coming apart, but he kept smashing it into the door, laughing the whole time. A girl with a ponytail wrestled him down, but even then they were both grinning with wide, empty eyes like they were having fun. I couldn't move. Rory. Her name hammered through my thoughts. Rory, Rory, Rory. My hands shook as I reached behind me for my phone, fingers clumsy against denim. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking at all. I just knew I had to get to her. Cool hands wrapped around my throat and cut off my breath so fast my vision sparked. I hit the floor hard, and Connor was on top of me. His eyes were different. Most of the others looked empty and lost, like sleepwalkers with knives in their hands. Connor had something else in his face, a thin, awful thread of awareness. He smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was manic, stretched too wide, like the muscles weren't listening to him anymore. He was making sounds, words maybe, but they came out mangled, like his mouth couldn't shape language properly. I couldn't breathe. Connor squeezed my throat with one hand and pawed around for his phone with the other. I knew what he wanted, and I tried to shove him off, but my body was weak and panicked and starving for air. Around me, I saw blood pooling, shining under fluorescent lights. I saw kids missing pieces of themselves, carrying their own guts like it was normal. Bodies ripped open that were still moving. They ran and crawled and stumbled, all of them chasing one simple goal: convert, spread. But Connor wasn't like them. Connor seemed to be thinking, but his thoughts had been bent into something ugly. Giggling, he shoved his phone right up toward my face. I squeezed my eyes shut. "Look at it," he wheezed, voice like laughter mixed with static. The screen blinked on and off like it couldn't decide if it was alive. "Look at it," he repeated. Closer. "Look at it, look at it, look at it." He leaned in until I could feel his breath on my skin. His head tipped back, his back arching like his body was being pulled by strings. His eyes lit up again, blue, electric, impossible. I don't know why, but I couldn't look away. It was like the light itself hooked into my brain. His mouth opened wider and wider into something that didn't look human anymore. And then he screamed. The sound hit me like a blade. It felt like someone splitting my skull open from the inside. Pain exploded behind my eyes. White, nuclear pain. Pain that didn't seem possible in a living body. When I cried out, Connor let go of my throat just long enough to jam the phone in front of my face. It was the same 15-second TikTok Rory had shown me earlier. Same audio, same stupid meme format. Nothing looked wrong at first. But the real problem wasn't the video. It was what sat on top of it, like an invisible layer. A high-frequency screech that rattled my bones. It wasn't just sound. It felt like something reaching through my eyes into my head. Connor's fingers clawed at my face, scratching, pressing, trying to force my eyes open when I flinched away. I was forced to take it in. I can't fully explain what happened after that because my memories don't work right around it. I remember pieces, splinters. I remember feeling something snap inside my head, like a cord being cut, like a lock breaking, like part of my mind got yanked open. I remember someone coming up behind Connor with a fire extinguisher and swinging it down onto his head. Over and over and over until Connor was nothing but ruined flesh twitching on the ground. And the sickest part is this. I found it funny, not just funny, hysterical. I started laughing, and then other people around me laughed too, like laughter was contagious. My thoughts turned blurry and slippery. I stood up on shaking legs, swaying side to side, and I wanted the boy with the extinguisher to do it again. I told him to do it again. I wanted to see Connor's skull split. I wanted brains on the floor. I wanted pain. I wanted screaming. I didn't get what I wanted, not in the way a sane person understands wanting, because Connor didn't die. Even when I grabbed the extinguisher and kept smashing, his face stayed locked in that horrible smile. His body rattled and trembled, his lips moving like he was still laughing, still screaming without sound. I've tried to skip this part. I've tried to tell myself I don't have to write it down. But I do, because if you're reading this, you need to understand what this thing does. I became a puppet. Whatever got released in that hallway took hold of me and turned my only thoughts into violence. I hurt people. I killed people. I ate people. I ripped into my own skin. I mutilated myself and felt satisfied by it. We weren't mindless zombies like in movies. We were worse. We were aware enough to know what we were doing, and that made it cruel on purpose. It was like being trapped in the backseat of your own body while someone else drove it straight into hell. We were part of a sadistic hive mind. The thing inside us kept us on a leash. It told us to bark, and we barked. It told us to hunt, and we hunted. It told us to sleep, wake, attack, drag survivors into the light of their phones. And we did. Fairview became a hunting ground. I don't know how long it was before someone knocked me out from behind. Maybe I'd been running with two other girls guarding one of the corridors like a pack of dogs. Maybe I'd been chasing someone. I can't tell you. My memory there is like broken glass. All I know is one moment I was standing, and the next I was staring up at a ceiling, my weapon gone, my head ringing. Something inside me didn't like being stopped. It screamed at me to fight back, to rip out my attacker's throat. Then something cold slid into the back of my neck. Pain, real pain. Sharp and clean compared to the messy screaming in my mind. And suddenly, whatever held my leash loosened. I don't know if it let go on its own or if it was forced out. But when I truly came to, when my mind finally belonged to me again, I understood what I'd done. The kids I'd hunted. The kids I'd hurt. The things I'd eaten. I didn't want to live with it. I wanted to die. I could still taste them. It was on my tongue, stuck in the back of my throat like a stain that wouldn't wash away. I remember thinking very clearly and very stupidly that they tasted gross. When I woke fully, I was in a classroom, or what was left of one. The door was barricaded with desks and chairs. The overhead light flickered like it was dying. I was tied to a desk with rope around my wrists and ankles. Warm liquid ran down the back of my neck, and there was something soft pressed against my throat, like a makeshift cushion or bandage. Well, well, well. someone said. A shadow stood in front of me. Welcome, the voice said brightly. Test subject number 18. The figure leaned forward and I smelled mint bubblegum. I jerked my head up instinctively. My body still remembered how to attack even though my mind didn't want to. The person jumped back fast. Then he cleared his throat, like he was trying to sound professional. Sorry about the restraints, but you've tried to kill me like 7 times, I counted. He poked my forehead with a gloved finger, and I had to fight the urge to bite him. I've managed to get it out, he said, voice excited, and judging by your return to maybe sanity, it looks like it worked. He tightened the rope again like he didn't fully trust me. Or I'm way too hopeful. You're kind of looking at me like I'm a walking Big Mac, subject 18. My mouth didn't work right at first. When I was part of the hive mind, we didn't talk out loud. Thoughts just moved between us like radio signals. Using my voice felt unfamiliar. What? I finally managed, licking my lips. They tasted like rusty coins. The boy sucked in a quick breath. It talks, he muttered to himself. That's new. He stepped closer into the light, and I could see him better. He was about my age, serious bed hair, a sweater stained and discolored. Over it, he wore a filthy lab coat like he was playing scientist. But he still looked like a kid. A real, scared, living kid. His smile wasn't friendly exactly. It was more like fascination, like I was something rare he'd caught. Even better, he said, poking me again. Subject 18 is speaking actual English. I hissed and snapped at him, managing to bite his finger through the glove. What the fuck? He laughed like he couldn't help it. Holy shit, you're back to normal. Then his face softened a little. Well, normal-ish. I can't reverse the psychological trauma from the, he mimed biting his own arm. Before I could ask 100 questions at once, he clapped his hands like he was starting a presentation. All right, let's get this over with. He grabbed a notebook and a pen and twirled the pen like he'd seen adults do it in movies. Do you remember your name? I stared at him. I didn't. No, I said. He hummed. Memory loss is common. You did come back from being a zombie-like psychopath. He scribbled in the notebook, but when I leaned my head to see, he wasn't taking real notes. He was drawing smiley faces. How about your age? Do you remember anything about yourself? I remembered Connor. I remembered smashing his skull. I remembered laughing. No, I whispered. His lips curled. You're not really a talker, are you? When I didn't answer, he pulled off his gloves. You were pretty vocal as one of them. I remember you chasing me down the math corridor. You really wanted to rip into my spleen for some reason. I didn't know what kind of response he wanted from me. Sorry I tried to rip out your spleen. He slammed the notebook shut like he'd gotten bored. Okay, forgive me for being gross, but you want to see it, right? What I got out of you. My awareness sharpened on the bandage around my neck. You got it out? I breathed. That thing? He nodded, proud. Yeah. I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials. He said like that explained everything. I used to have a lot of time on my hands. My head spun. I kept thinking of the phone, of the screech, of Connor forcing my eyes open. This thing was a video, I said slowly. I watched a video. He nodded like I'd said something obvious. It started like one, but stuff evolves. Have you ever played Plague Inc? Then he sighed, like he was about to explain the weather. You've been out of it for like 8 months. You were guarding F-block stairs for maybe 3 months. That's how I caught you. He shot me a grin that didn't reach his eyes. Things have changed. On April Fool's Day, a mass text went out to every device in the school. Everyone who saw it lost their minds. He held up 3 fingers. There are basically 3 categories now. First, the Walking Dead types. They rejected it and went full zombie. Pure instinct, no planning. He paused. Then there are the successes, the ones it wanted. The army, psychopaths with enough awareness to hunt. Those are the ones who force survivors to watch the video. His voice tightened with real anger. And that's if they're feeling merciful. You were one of those. My stomach twisted. Finally, he continued, pointing at himself, there are people like me, people who didn't see it, who forgot to charge their phones. Or in my case, he shrugged. I fell asleep. I tend to do that. It hit me like a slap. The narcoleptic kid, the vampire, the kid Joey had been bullying. He was standing in front of me in a lab coat, chewing gum like the world wasn't falling apart. He gestured around the ruined classroom. Now we're living in this so-called utopia, ruled by Aurora Michelson, your best friend, the genius behind the prank, our creator, and apparently our goddess. Whatever that thing is, it's taken complete control of her. She's like their queen. Cold spread through my body. Rory? I whispered. You mean Rory? Is that her name? He pulled a face. Yeah, you'll know what I mean when you see her. When I see her, my voice sounded small. He stared at me like I was missing something obvious, then sighed and started untying the ropes. We'll get there. When the last knot loosened, he held out a hand. I'm Jasper, by the way. I took his hand and he pulled me to my feet. My legs almost gave out. He steadied me, then stepped back like he didn't want me close. If that thing is still lingering in you and you try anything, Jasper said, still smiling but not joking, I won't hesitate to kill you. No hard feelings. One of them, Jasper walked to the window and pulled back the curtains. They were spattered with old blood. I moved toward it slowly. There were bars on the window. When I pressed my face close, I saw a flash of green outside, like the school grounds had been swallowed by something alive. Jasper tapped the bars. They quarantined us a day after the outbreak. At first, it looked like they were trying to help. Then the freaks ate the people who came in, and the ones like you warned the rest not to cross into your territory. So now they've basically given up. Pretty pathetic. I dropped to my knees by the door, staring at the hinge. Thick vine-like roots were tangled around it, threaded through the cracks like veins. What is that? I asked, throat tight. Jasper's smile vanished. When it can't control someone, it explodes in their head, doesn't kill them, keeps the body alive, and then whatever it is sprouts. It's everywhere now, all over the school. He swallowed. It started in the IT room, spread from there. He turned to me. There's something else I need to show you, but we have to be quiet. At night, your old group sleeps in the corridors, and the mindless ones still roam. He moved toward the door, and I followed. This thing is intelligent, Jasper whispered. It built an army. The aware ones have one mission: convert anyone left lucid. His face twisted with disgust. They lost one of their pack when I took you, so they'll be looking. He glanced at me sharply. Unless you want to go back to them. I need Rory, I said. My mouth said it before my brain could stop it. I need to get her. That's a bad idea, Jasper muttered. There are guards. He groaned like I'd asked him to walk into fire. I'm working on it. I managed to unzombie you, didn't I? He removed part of the barricade and we slipped into the corridor. It was almost completely dark, but my eyes adjusted fast, like my body remembered this place. Jasper carried a baseball bat and moved like he'd done this 100 times. He kept one hand on my arm, dragging me with him. The hallway looked wrong. Thick greenery crawled along the walls, roots twisting into door frames, pushing through cracks in the floor. It wasn't just vines. It looked like the school had grown a nervous system. If you see a phone, Jasper whispered, smash it during the day. I didn't understand until we reached what was left of Connor Marlowe. He was still there. His body was intact enough to recognize, but not intact enough to be human. He was breathing, chest rising and falling, despite being mostly ruined flesh that twitched like it couldn't settle. Beside him lay a phone. Jasper used his sleeve to pick it up carefully like it was radioactive. The screen flashed on and I flinched so hard my neck hurt. Jasper gripped my shoulder. Relax. It's dead. For now. For now? Jasper angled the screen toward me. Look, they don't even show the video anymore, just this. A countdown. They're all connected, Jasper murmured, nodding at Connor and the other bodies slumped nearby. Whatever happens to them, the phones react. Whatever happens to the phones, they react. It's like one system. When Jasper moved the phone closer to Connor, Connor's body rattled. His eyes flickered. Under our feet, the floor trembled. What was that? I whispered, panic rising like bile. That, Jasper said, voice flat, is the latest update. The numbers on the screen read 67% complete. Update, I repeated. Update for what? No clue, Jasper said. But it's learning through us. He tightened his grip on the bat. And if it can shake the building and mess with the lights, I'm guessing the next version isn't going to be better. Right then, a dead bulb above us sparked, then lit up. The sudden light made my stomach roll. For a second, I could smell the hallway again. Old blood, rot, something sour and alive. I tasted my own memory and had to bite my lip to keep from throwing up. Wait, Jasper hissed. He dropped to his knees beside Connor, leaning closer, eyes narrowing. With the end of the bat, he poked at something slick and pale wriggling on the floor near Connor's ear. No way, Jasper breathed. His voice shook. That's brain tissue. It's combined itself through our brain tissue and learned how to exist. I stared at the thing, my skin crawling. It moved like a root and a worm at the same time. That's what you got out of me, I whispered. Right? Jasper looked up slowly. Yeah, but it wasn't supposed to survive outside a host. The one I pulled from you died the second it hit the can. He poked the thing again, harder. It didn't die. He stamped on it, and when he lifted his foot, it still squirmed, then slid fast back into Connor's ear like it belonged there. Jasper stumbled back, breathing too hard. If it can survive outside of us, we're fucked, he whispered. Because what comes after that? Running footsteps. And laughter, high sing-song, threaded with that same static crackle I remembered from the hallway on April Fool's Day. Then voices calling like they knew me. Mara? Come and play, Mara. My whole body went cold. I felt them. That's the only way to explain it. I felt them approaching like you can feel bass through a wall. Like a pressure in the air. Like my name was tied to them by an invisible string. But the thing that had been inside me was gone. So why did I still feel connected? I caught Jasper's eyes. He looked terrified. Mara, he whispered. Is that you? I nodded, throat too tight to speak. He swore under his breath. It's your friends. He grabbed my hand and flattened us against the wall. We need to move. We slipped into the nearest classroom, barricaded the door with whatever we could find. Jasper told me they don't try to break in at night. They hunt in daylight. At night they sleep or they roam without focus. Or maybe the thing inside them goes quiet. That was 3 days ago. We've been here since then, hiding, listening, watching the countdown tick in Jasper's head like it's ticking in the school itself. We're safe for now, but I can't stop thinking about that update. 67%. Toward what? What does complete even mean when the thing doing the updating is a virus that turned into a root in someone's brain? Jasper told me the internet has been cut off. The school is sealed. No signal should come in or out. But in the same breath, he admitted he's pretty sure we act like a modem when we're connected together, like the hive mind itself is a network. I don't know how I'm getting this out. I don't know why I have a connection at all. Maybe the virus wants me to. Maybe it's letting me speak because it benefits it somehow. But if anyone is reading this, you have to help us. Get us out. It's strange the way fear makes space for other feelings. I haven't even had time to really understand what I did. I know it's coming, though. I know the guilt is waiting for a quiet moment to crush me. I hope when it hits fast. Rory is out there somewhere inside this building, and I have to find her. I keep telling myself it wasn't her fault. She didn't mean for this. She thought she was being funny. She thought she was going to beat Melanie Topper and become a legend for a day. I know it wasn't her fault. I know it, right?